أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الواصفين الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين وأبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وكونوا مع الصادقين صلوات السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. The ayah that I recited for the second night in a row is from Surah Tawbah, verse number 119, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses the mu'mineen by saying that, O those who believe, fear Allah, adopt the taqwa of Allah, be God-wary, be pious, and be with those who are truthful. And yesterday I may have recited it by mistake, but tonight I recited on purpose so that we can begin with the ayat of Quran. As you know, the discussion has been under the topic of Sifatul Muttaqeen, using that khutbah from Amir al-Mu'mineen, from Nahj-ul-Balagha, khutbah number 193, in which Amir al-Mu'mineen counts 110 sifat and the attributes of Muttaqeen, when one of his companions by the name of Hammam asked Imam a question, Sifli al-Muttaqeen hatta ka'anni anduru ilayhim, that explain to me or define the sifat and the attributes of Muttaqeen, so much so that I may be able to see them from my own eyes. فَتَفَاقَلَ عَنْ جَوَابِهِ, as the riwayah says, that Imam refrained from responding to the question raised by Hammam, and Imam responded by saying, اتقوا الله فإن الله مع الذين اتقوا والذين هم محسنون, that fear Allah, O Hammam, and do righteous deeds, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with those who fear Him and perform righteous deeds. This was the background for those who haven't been here thus far of this discussion, where Amir al-Mu'mineen then elaborated and took it to the eloquence as has become the part of Nahj-ul-Balagha, where Imam mentions one after another different attributes of Muttaqeen. Thus far, we've been able to cover close to 8 or 9 different features and the sifat of Muttaqeen, trying to relate them into the discussions that we have, and also try to derive some practical lessons if we can, and in fact also on our way to becoming Muttaqeen as well. Because we know that Masumeen have mentioned that Iman is a level above Islam and Taqwa is a level above Iman. And then there's another thing which is a level above Taqwa, which is Yaqeen. And our 8th Imam says there's nothing less than Yaqeen that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon His creations and those who He has, His makhluqat. And therefore, the least which is expected from us to be at the level of Yaqeen, while we see that we're still struggling to be at the level of Iman, barely, with much difficulty. And therefore it is important, eminent for us to realize this khutbah which Amirul Mu'mineen has presented, not for us just to read and feel good about the kalam of Amirul Mu'mineen and then not be able to make it into any sort of application for our lives. Because we realize when our sixth Imam, Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, was questioned about the aqsam of taqwa, the division of taqwa, Imam said there are three types of taqwa. One is taqwa billah or taqwa billah or fillah, which is the level of the elitist of the elite, those who avoid even the halal lest they end up using which is mushabih, or the thing which has doubts in it. That's the level of the highest of the highest. They even refrain from utilizing that which is halal, because it is possible that in that halal there might be some sort of shubha, there might be some sort of doubt. And it comes handy in this day and age, the time and the place that we live in, especially that when we hear something is halal, we jump right to it without questioning the actuality of that thing which we are consuming. Because we know how effective it could be on our well-being, as well as our iman, as well as tempering with the spirituality that we must all adopt. The reason that you see a drop in khudu and khushu of our ibadat is due to the fact what we consume. Need I remind you of the khutbah of Sayyidul Shuhada in the battlefield of Karbala, that when Imam spoke to the army of Umar Asad and he said that I'm speaking to you, yet there isn't any effect on you. You and I, we hear the kalam of Masumeen 14 centuries later. I've recited many riwayat in front of you. Some of them, when you hear them, right away, subhanallah comes to your tongue. Because that's what these riwayat are. This is mahasin kalam of Masumeen. But when we see that if Imam was speaking to you directly, just imagine what the impact would be. And I'll give you even further example. Imagine if a marja taqleed of a time was speaking to you and he narrated the same hadith that I did, just imagine the impact it would have upon you. Therefore, if Imam was speaking directly to you, just imagine the impact of that kalam. So Imam is speaking to this army of Yazid and Umar Asad, and then Imam says, what is it that there isn't any impact upon you? It's not affecting you, the words that are coming out of my mouth. And then Imam gave the reasoning himself. لأن بطونكم ملعت من الحرام or بالحرام. That indeed, because your bellies are filled with haram. And as soon as the bellies are filled with haram, then that which is truth, that which is righteousness, that which is haqq, even coming from that which is sahib haqq, will not have any impact upon you. So therefore, the elitist of the elite are those that taqwa min Allah, if you want to call it taqwa billah, are those that even avoid halal, many halal things, because there's a possibility of something doubtful being in it. The second level is lower than that. It is taqwa min Allah, of those who avoid things which are with shubha, things which have doubts in it. Because if you were to ask a marja taqleed, that is, can I consume something upon which I have doubt whether it is halal or not? The fatwa will be, yes, you can. As long as you don't know what's in it, then it is okay for you to consume. But these elite, they avoid even those things which are doubtful, lest they end up consuming that which is haram. And then the last group is, which majority of us, including me, we belong, is taqwa from the fire of hell. We are afraid of that. It's not taqwa billah or taqwa min Allah, but we're afraid of that hellfire, the reality of which has been made clear to us. Therefore, we only stay away from that which is haram, even if that much was possible. So our sixth Imam explained that these are three different types of taqwa that you would find in individuals, and these are the categories of these people. Now moving to the kalam of Amirul Mu'mineen in this reference as we've been going along, Imam says, one of the sifat of muttaqeen is نُزِّلَتْ أَنفُسُهُمْ مِنْهُمْ فِي الْبَلَاءِ كَالَّتِي نُزِّلَتْ فِي الرَّخَاءِ. They remain in time of trials as they remain in time of comfort. That one of the attributes of muttaqeen is that regardless of the circumstances, whether it's a time of trial or they're going through comfort, whether they're in their comfort zone or they're facing tribulations, it does not matter to them. In fact, their normal behavior, their behavior remains the same. It is unchangeable regardless of the situation. Have you ever seen one of the ways of finding out about someone is that you travel with them? And usually how you do that is when you're traveling with someone, you find out a great deal about that individual because they are out of their comfort zone. They're not at home. So that everything that they need is not in their possession or within reach. So when they're traveling, those things may not be in their reach. So they're out of their comfort zone. And when there's some sort of necessity and they don't have in their access that which they need, right away you see the good and bad in that individual. So therefore, you see a lot of faces, especially when you travel for ziyarat, when you travel for hajj, which encompasses a great deal of difficulty alongside with it, that you see the good and bad of that individual. And that is the reason Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Quran very clearly calls out that الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ. That these are the individuals, it does not matter to them. They go ahead and do infaq, they go and spend in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, regardless of the fact that they are going through comfort, ease, or adversity. Whether it's sarra or it's darra. وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. That these are the individuals. Does not matter to them that what the circumstances may be. That's why sometimes you and I have two faces. We have two personalities. One personality when we are in our comfort zone, another personality when we are out of our comfort zone. And this is the best opportunity for you to understand your own inner capabilities as well as those of you in your surroundings. I'll give you an example just so quickly so we can move forward with this discussion, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I may have recited this ayat before as I speak a lot here, He said, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. That indeed we created mankind in pain, difficulty. So from the very beginning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not keeping anything hidden. That there will be pain, there will be difficulty, there will be problems that you will face in your lives. Therefore, why worry about it? Surah Hadid talks about it as well. That I'm surprised at those people that when a mushkil comes upon them, that they're worried. And when that mushkil, they're going with ease, they are, excited about it. Well, this is something which has been laid out in front of them from the very beginning. If someone tells you before you invest in a business that there's a possibility that you may lose money, you are already prepared for it. Although it may still come as a shock to you after losing that money which you had invested, but nonetheless, you are ready and prepared for it. Similarly, on the contrary, if you were to gain something, a profit from it, you will get excited, although you knew that there's a possibility of making money and a gain in it as well. Therefore, the two possibilities exist in all of these situations. Hence, we find that why is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ, that indeed we created mankind in much difficulty. It is in order to test individuals and human beings. When they are put through certain tests, only then the good and the bad of them come out. When you're going through ease, not nearly you will be able to see the good and the bad of that individual. But when they're put through difficulties and trials and tribulation, only then you will see the good and bad in that individual. I'll give you a few examples of that. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not need to test anyone. He knows, alimun bidat as-sudur. It is you and I who need to test people sometimes in order for us to understand what they're made of. And therefore we see that when we are going through tough times, it is at that particular time you see that the inner hidden capabilities of yours come out. Your hidden secrets come out and they flourish. Only then you'll be able to exhibit that you are always thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There never is an instance where you go through difficulties where you bring complaint on your tongue. And that can only happen when Allah gives you trials, when He puts you through tribulation. And the examples are in front of us. You look at Karbala. You have all the examples in the world found within Karbala. That when Allah says in Surah Baqarah, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَالنَّقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُم مُّصِيبَةٌ قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. That وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ, we most surely will go ahead and challenge you. There's no doubt about it that you will be challenged by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. بِشَيْءٍ, but from one of these things. What are these things? مِنَ الْخَوْفِ, you will have fear sometime. وَالْجُوعِ, you will have hunger sometime. نَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ, by losing some of your wealth. وَالْأَنفُسِ, by sacrificing your life. وَالثَّمَرَاتِ, by even giving the sacrifice of your children. The beauty of Quran, Allah did not say وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَوْلَادِ, because it's very difficult for insan to fathom that they will one day lose their own children. Nobody wants to outlive their children, because obviously it'll be very difficult for them. But that's the reason Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowing the psychology of insan, did not use the word awlad, instead use what? Thamarat. That we will test you with your thamara, which is your children. You see that some of us may have felt one of these trials and tribulations. But if you want to see all of these trials in one place, you find it all of them in Karbala. You find fear in Karbala as well. Up until the 9th of Muharram, there may not have been any fear, at least in those hearts of those who were inside the tents, because they knew someone such as Abbas, Qamar Bani Hashim, is out there. But from the 7th of Muharram, they are facing what? Ju' and hunger as well. Naqsim min al-amwal, when the tents were burnt down, all of the wealth and the mal that they had, the worldly mal, that was looted. Wal anfus, they gave their own lives and their nufus as sacrifice for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Was thamarat, and they also gave their children's sacrifices as well. So all of these things are there one place in Karbala. So why is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing us then? How do we cope with it? You realize your own worth, and then at sometimes you have to realize the worth of those who are in your surrounding. That when I'm in need, is it anyone that I can really count upon? So I'll bring you to Battle of Ahzab. That's where in Medina there's a place called Khandaq, or the place which is called Sab'a Masajid. Rasulullah had built 7 mosques over there. Only 1 or 2 of them remain. They had gotten rid of all of the other mosques. And this is where, the victory was given in the Battle of Ahzab or Battle of Khandaq. And this is where Rasulullah had built these masajid. One of the masjid was Masjid Fath, after the victory that was given to them. One of them was Masjid Ali. One of them was Masjid Fatima. And there were other masajid like Masjid Salman and others. We see that in that battle, there's an enemy of Islam who's calling upon all of Muslims and all of Islam by the name Amr ibn Abd Wud. Amr ibn Abd Wud is calling and mocking Rasulullah as well as Muslimin. Today, someone mocks our Prophet, you see the protests that begin. Over there's an enemy standing in front and mocking the Holy Prophet. And it was a very awkward situation when Rasulullah said to his camp that who amongst you wants to go ahead and answer Amr ibn Abd Wud. You know how Umar Saad had said to Hurmula, as you just heard in the Marsiya as well, Iqta kalam al-Hussein. Rasulullah was asking the same thing. Who amongst you wants to stop this man from what he's saying? But it was a situation where everybody was looking away from Rasulullah, because nobody had the guts to stand up to Amr ibn Abd Wud. Only one man, young man, was eager to leave. Rasulullah said, sit down. Again, Amr ibn Abd Wud mocked. Rasulullah asked again, who amongst you wants to go and respond? Again, people were looking away so that they don't make eye contact with Rasulullah. But then one young man again wanted to go and eager to respond. But when he did not, nobody got up after 3 or 4 tries, then Rasulullah sent Amirul Mu'mineen to go ahead and respond to Amr ibn Abd Wud. And Amirul Mu'mineen responded. How he responded? The way he responded, the Rasulullah said, Darbatu Ali Yawmul Khandaq Afdalu min ibadat al-Thaqalain. The one strike of Ali on the day of Khandaq is superior to the ibadat of Thaqalain, jinn or ins counting together. Salawat Biji Muhammad. But the point that we are trying to derive from it, going back to what Amir al-Mu'mineen said in this khutbah, that muttaqeen are those that they don't change regardless of the situation is upon them. Why is it that Rasulullah did not send Ali right away? It is maybe so that you realize those who are in surrounding of Rasulullah, that how much can he count upon them? Are they reliable enough to stand up to defend the Holy Prophet? When they can't defend the Holy Prophet in his life, they would not be able to defend the Holy Prophet in his absence. Second is in the battle of Khaybar. That great victory which was given against the Jews, we find that for 39 days, they were not victorious. Then on the 39th day, Rasulullah announces that I will give the ra'ya in the hand of someone who is karrar, ghair farrar, and he will bring the victory to us. Rasulullah, you are so sure about it. Why didn't you send Ali the first day, the second day, after a week, after 2 weeks of constant defeat? Even though if Ali was marid, initially he was marid even on the 39th day. Then when he was brought, Rasulullah asked him what happened. He said, his eyes are weak or his eyes are hurting. And so he was weak even earlier. Why didn't Rasulullah call upon him? Again, the same response will be given, that for 39 days we can test all of those Muslims, so-called Muslims, along with us, see who are dependable, whom we can depend upon. But yes, this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests, so that you realize your own worth and you realize the worth of those who are in your surroundings. Salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So whether it be bala or raha, muttaqeen are those, they are not changeable. They don't change their attitude, whether they're going through smoothly with ease or whether they're going through difficult time in their life. Then Amir al-Mu'mineen says, وَلَوْلَا الْأَجَلُ الَّذِي كَتَبَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ لَمْ تَسْتَقِرَّ أَرْوَاحُهُمْ فِي أَجْسَادِهِمْ طَرْفَةَ عَيْنٍ شَوْقًا إِلَى الثَّوَابِ وَخَوْفًا إِلَى الْعِقَابِ. If it wasn't for the bodies that God had created for them, if it wasn't for these, ruh, it would have left their bodies right away for the shawq of meeting and receiving the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and khawfan min al-iqabe, for in twinkling of an eye, because their eagerness for the reward and the fear of chastisement. So here we understand that this body is created as a vessel for you. Utilize this body. What is more important as far as the creation of insan is concerned? The more important element of insan is the soul that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. We find many a time that we are so busy in the beautification of our bodies that we are constantly corrupting our souls. That's why you read in Surah Shams that he says, indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the soul which is Salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا قَدْ أَفْلَهَا مَنْ زَكَّاهَا وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. That indeed, قَدْ أَفْلَهَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا, that person is indeed has found success who purified the soul. وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. And the one who corrupted it, obviously, did not find this najat. So here we see that soul is the actual creation which is to be questioned and which is to be answered, although we should not be in this worry that tomorrow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will raise us only with the soul. No, He will couple the bodies with the soul and they will be brought as ma'ad jismani. Our ma'ad will be with this body of ours that is going around in this life. And that is the reason that a lot of people went into some sort of shak that how will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raise us? He says in Quran, Yub'athu man fil qubur. What's inside the qubur? Is it the souls that are hiding inside the qubur? No, it is the bodies of human beings that are hiding in the qubur. He said, how is it possible for Allah to raise that which is in the qubur? After 30, 40 years, nothing remains of the body parts. The one who created you from nothing, is it difficult for Him to go ahead and create you from the substance which already exists? So they're doubting the ability of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as far as His creation is concerned. Then Amirul Mu'mineen says, وَأَظُمَ الْخَالِقُ فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ فَصَغُرَ مَا دُونَهُ فِي أَعْيُنِهِمْ. A lot of these things are actually in fact very difficult for me to even go ahead and commentate on, because it's beyond even my pay grade. That how Amirul Mu'mineen is saying this, the greatness of the Creator is seated in their heart, and so everything else appears small in their eyes. The greatness of the Creator is seated deep inside their hearts, that everything else seems what? Inferior, small. Here we see that how is it possible that you and I develop an eye where everything else feels inferior, because that superiority that you carry inside your heart. You know, a person came to our sixth Imam, Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam. These are the waqiyat my elders, I'm sure, have heard numerous times. Majority of them are to make a point for our younger generation and the youngsters who are sitting over here. That a person came and he complained about his poverty. Imam said to him that, you are the richest person in the world. He responded by saying, oh Imam, are you making fun of me? I'm coming here to ask you that I don't even have enough to get by a day or two, yet you're saying I'm the richest person in the world. And therefore, Imam said to him that you have something which no one else does. And if I was to put a price in front of that thing, you will never trade it for any price in the world. And then Imam said to him that you have in your heart, which is called the wilayat and the love of Ahlul Bayt. He said, do you not? He said, yes, indeed, I have this love of Ahlul Bayt in my heart. Imam said, if I was to put a price that this Abu Qubais was to convert into the best and the purest of the gold and given to you for the price that you let go of this love of Ahlul Bayt, will you trade it? He said, no, Imam, I will never trade this love of Ahlul Bayt that I have in my heart for this price or any price for that matter. Then Imam said, then you're the richest person in the world. Don't ever consider, and as soon as a person is able to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's grandeur in his heart and be able to picture it, then everything else becomes small and inferior in front of their eyes. Salawat biji Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. وَالْجَنَّةُ كَمَنْ قَدْ رَآهَا فَهُمْ فِيهَا مُتَأَمُّونَ وَالنَّارُ كَمَنْ قَدْ رَآهَا فَهُمْ فِيهَا مُعَذِّبُونَ. Thus, to them paradise is as though they see it and are enjoying its favors. To them hell is also as if they see it, suffering in the punishment of the hell. This is one of the sifat of muttaqeen that Amir al-Mu'mineen mentions. That within this life, muttaqeen are those who are able to witness the paradise and as if they are enjoying the favors of paradise. And within this world, these people are able to see the Jahannam as if they are suffering in the adhab of Jahannam. And this is, again, every single one of these words that are coming from Amir al-Mu'mineen, not that he needs any references, but you'll find the reference to all of these in the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You recite this surah many times in your salat. Alhaakumut takathur. Towards the end, it says, Latarawannal Jahim. What does that mean? Jahim is another name for Jahannam. Latarawannal Jahim. Lam for ta'keed. Noon thaqila towards the end for ta'keed. Thum latarawannal Jahim. Most surely, without a doubt, they will see Jahim. Now who will see Jahim? Those who die and after their death, they're raised in Qiyamah, they will see Jahim? Well then, there's no skill in it because everyone will get to see Jahim at that time. Even those who are going to paradise, they will be able to see Jahim as well. In fact, those who are in the Jahim, they will be able to witness those who are not there. As the ayat of Quran says, what is it? Lam la nara. We do not see those individuals. Kunna na'udduhum min al-ashrar. What is it that we don't see over here in Jahannam? Those people whom we used to consider to be very evil. Well, you used to consider them to be very evil in this world, and you found them that they're not in there in Jahannam with you. What happened? Because you considered them to be evil. What is it that even one action of that individual was able to take them to paradise? That's how the rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is wasi'. That's how wasi' the rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. And therefore, how do you see Jahannam? Now, latarawunna al-jahim means that you're able to see Jahannam right here in this world. You're able to witness it right here in this world. Only when you're able to witness it right here in this world, only then it makes sense. Otherwise, everyone will be able to see it after Qiyamah takes place. ثُمَّ لَتُسْأَلُنَّ يَوْمَئِذٍ عَنِ النَّعِيمِ. And then they will be questioned about the great ni'mat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is this na'im? When our 8th Imam, Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida alayhi salatu wasalam, was questioned about this na'im, and you find riwayat after riwayat in tafasir. Allama Tabatabai refutes one riwayat after another. It's a beauty of Tafsir Mizan how he quotes others without naming them. Baziha gufte and. Some have said this, and then he'll narrate what they have said. And then after he has quoted every one of them, then he refutes one after another. That does not make sense. That does not make sense. Because some of the people said, and there are riwayat, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will question the rizq that He has given to you. A person came and asked our 8th Imam this. Imam said to him that imagine if you were walking down a street, and if you were hungry or if you were thirsty, you knock on the door and you ask that Sahib Khana, can you give me a glass of water? He said, yes. He said, do you think even that Sahib Khana will question you for the ni'mat of this water that he has given to you? He said, no, it was a very ordinary thing. So when that is an ordinary thing for this Sahib Khana, why do you expect that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be questioning you for this rizq that He has given to you? This rizq is created for you. There isn't question about that when He says, ثُمَّ لَتُسْأَلُنَّ يَوْمَئِذٍ عَنِ النَّعِيمِ. Imam, then what is this ni'mat that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be questioning us on the Day of Judgment? Imam that responded by saying, is the ni'mat of us Ahlul Bayt that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you? Were you able to utilize this ni'mat to its best of the means or not? Salawat bi And whenever I come to the discussion of ni'mat, I start going in tangents, although I bring my notes, but can't refrain from adding this as far as the ni'mat is concerned. That how do we truly thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? In the previous discussions, the discussion of mantiquhum as-sawab, that their speech is errorless, muttaqin that is. They refrain their absar amma harram Allahu alayhim, from that which is haram for them to lay their eyes upon. And they put their ears, waqafu asma'ahum, they put their ears, that which is ilm nafi, all of these organs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. Definitely, it is a duty upon us to go ahead and be grateful to what Allah has given to us. How do we show this gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is there a price tag that we put upon any of these organs? Yes, when you are getting an organ transplanted, then yes, there's a price tag upon it. And if it wasn't for the insurances that we have, not many of us would be able to afford many of these organ transplants. But nonetheless, we find that humans may have gone ahead and put some sort of price tag. But having that given from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it did not come with any price tag. Because there's no way for us to respond and thank Him the way He deserves to be thanked. Prophet served for 23 years and he says, Inna ajri ilallah, you will not be able to thank me, that which I did for you. Then how is it possible for us to be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And this is where when Hazrat Musa said, Oh Allah, I'm ajiz of even thanking you. There's no way to thank you. Allah said, this is the best way of thanking me. That when you realize your ajizi, inkisari, inability to go ahead and be grateful to you. But the better way would be to utilize these organs in the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to see them to be utilized. If He has created these organs for a particular purpose, make sure that you use them for that particular purpose. Then you are really thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for what He has given to you. Shaykh Asadi, I usually recite this when it comes to the discussion of ni'mat. He says, Har nafasi ke furubi ravad, mumid hayat ast. Waqti ke bar mi ayad, mufarreh zaat ast. That every nafas that you take, when you breathe, mumid hayat ast. It prolongs your life. It extends your life. Gives tamdeed, idama, continuation to your life. Because when you breathe in and you breathe out, you are what? Extending your life. There are two actions that are happening. You inhale and you exhale. Imagine you inhaled and you were not able to exhale. It would be much trouble. And then waqti ke bar mi ayad mufarreh dhatas. And when you're able to exhale, then it brings this, farah, brings this farhat to you, brings this joy to your face that you're able to exhale. He said every one of these two are a ni'mat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just imagine how many times you should be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because every time you breathe, there are two portions of it and both of them are considered to be the ni'mat of that mun'im. Just multiply that, how many times you should be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In ta'uddu ni'matallahi la tuhsuha. If you were to count all the ni'mat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's no way you would be able to enumerate them. Salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. قلوبهم محزونة وشرورهم مأمونة وأجسادهم نحيف. I may not be able to get to all of these. Their hearts are grieved. They're protected against evil. Their bodies are thin. Needs are scanty and souls are chaste. They endured hardship for a while. In consequence, they secured comfort for a long time. These are the sifat of muttaqeen, that they're able to go through hardship for a little while, knowing inna ma'al usri yusra, that after this little hardship definitely will come ease from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Insan should tame his soul to be satisfied that which is presently with them. A lot of us are in this stress that which we do not have. And we are oblivious of that which we already have. If we're able to use that which we already have and put it to proper use and stop worrying about that which we do not have, then you'll be able to minus the stress from your life a great deal. But hammu gham is where? That which I do not have. A child is satisfied with the fun and the childish play. Someone who matures a little bit, there's rushd as far as their aql is concerned, mental maturity is concerned, they're inclined toward other things. It could be wealth, it could be fame, it could be other things that they are inclined towards. But there isn't really any satisfaction that you find. A child who's playing with this one toy right now may not be very inclined towards this toy after a week or so, or maybe after a day, or some of you may say after an hour. Right? I'm done with this toy now. I want to move on to the next toy. Why? It was not providing complete satisfaction. Similarly, as we grow older, we run after things which are more meaningful. It could be wealth, it could be fame, it could be other things. But even after achieving all of that, you find that there isn't really any real satisfaction in it. The most, the famous people in the world and the richest of all, even them you find that there's stress in their lives. So what is the guarantee that if we were in their places, we would be all satisfied? Therefore we understand that satisfaction does not lie in these worldly things. If it did, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have exhorted us. Ma'asumeen would have gone after such things. Was it not possible for them? Absolutely it was possible for them. But they showed us that satisfaction, the real satisfaction, is not in these things. Because these things, rubba shahwatin, that sometimes these little things, their satisfaction is only temporary in nature. It will be there for a while, but then it will disappear and you would not see any temptation toward that thing. Which you were tempted maybe a week ago, no longer, it is tempting you. Therefore, this satisfaction is for time being only. Muttaqeen are those who spend and who invest in those satisfactions which are of permanent nature. So what is the satisfaction that is of the permanent nature? Again, you refer to the kalam of Amirul Mu'mineen and you put it in scale and parallel with kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You'll find this ayat, ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. That with the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you find itminan qalb. Now this may be a thing that you say, well, when we have hit our 60s or 70s, then talk about itminan qalb. Then we don't have the worries of, running after children's needs and families' needs and all of those things that we are running after. Now we have retired or we have gone towards this. Now we can go ahead and look for this itminan in our qulub. Now that is not the reason that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. No, itminan qalb could be received with the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the very beginning of your life. From the very beginning. Ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. Oh Allah, if your dhikr is guaranteeing absolute itminan, then tell us how do we do your dhikr. Again, Quran will guide us by saying, aqimis salata li dhikri. Establish the prayer and for my dhikr, and you'll be able to do my dhikr in the best possible way. And therefore we realize the importance that is laid upon this salat of ours, how some people, they find this satisfaction as soon as they stand up on musalla. As if all the worries are gone. How many times has it happened to you that you found yourself to be engulfed in all sort of directions from the masaib and the musibat of all around, yet the moment you stand up in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you put your forehead on the ground in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you find this serenity of heart. This itminan, that there is someone who is going to go ahead and remove and alleviate all of the pains from you. Because when Rasulullah, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he ascended to the heavens, and yes, he went with jism to the heavens. His ruh did not travel. It was in his sleep that he had a dream and he went up there. No. It was jismani. Subhanalladhi asra bi'abdihi. Not biruhihi. Or whatever the case may be. Allah could have said it easily. Bi'abdihi. So this abd of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taken to the heavens. And there's a discussion that Rasulullah had. I narrated something in the other night as well regarding ulama. But here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has this discussion. He says to the Holy Prophet, Ya Ahmad, Hal tadri bi'ayyi waqtin yataqarrabu al-abdu ila al-ma'bud. Oh Ahmad, do you know when is it that my servant is closest to me? And Rasulullah, out of the taqaddus of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said, La adri, I do not know. This wasn't the case that Rasulullah, na'udhu billah, is. He does not know this case. In fact, in Surah Qayamat, he also says, In adri. When people said to him, that do you know when Qayamat will take place? He said, In adri. I don't know. Am ba'id or qareeb? I don't know if it's far or if it's close. That is something which is, the knowledge is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he said, La adri, I do not know. He said, إِذَا كَانَ جَائِعًا أَوْ سَاجِدًا. When my abd is ja'i, empty stomach, and when my servant is in the form of sajda, that is when he's closest to me. So therefore take the worth of sajda, especially when you perform in the halat that you are fasting, so that you are the closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at that time. Salawat beji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So this grief is something which sometimes could be life-threatening, that a lot of people then go into stress and they're unable to come out of it. So therefore we see in old days, there was a discussion of khair or shar, that people thought that there were two gods, one who was responsible for khair and the other one who was responsible for the shar. That goods that came from was the God of good, and the shar that came from was the God of the shar. So for example, if you see love, peace, tranquility, immunity, that is from the God of khair. And if you saw any sort of evil, bloodshed, war, hatred, these are from the creator of evil. So, there was a discussion between Asha'ira and Mu'tazila in regards to this, and they debated over it. Those who believe in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and His adalat, don't think in such a way. Rather, they think that absolute evil, there is no such thing as an absolute evil in the world. Everything is under the umbrella of the rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If there's anything, it is the rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There isn't anything which is the evil. A lot of times things are in comparison. When we look at them in the relative to something else, only then we find adam and the lack of that thing. So you have a few examples in front of you. When you look at, different colors, when you look at white, in its essence, white exists. Because that's the essence of that color which exists. So a lot of time, this comparison would not be good. Hayat is the reality. An object is alive not by comparison to another object. I'll give you some examples so the discussion would be easier, and inshallah I'll bring it towards the close. For example, jahl, ignorance. What is ignorance? Ignorance is actually lack of knowledge. Similarly, you have faqr, poverty. Poverty is actually lack of ghina, richness. You have marg, or death, which is the lack of hayat. You have, for example, illness. Illness is lack of well-being that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to you. You see, you have blindness. Someone who's blind, it is the lack of binai that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted. So there's only rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that exists, and everything is under this umbrella of the rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If I can just bring the discussion to close with this last few words and pay attention to it. It would solve a lot of issues that we have as far as our perspective, worldview is concerned. That if we were to look at only the rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's all that exists. And then everything else is beneath this rahmat. So then, how do you respond to Jahannam? Is that also rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How do you respond to the existence of Iblis and Shayateen? Are they also the rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It depends on your view and perspective. Indeed, you ask someone the pain that you have in your body, that pain which is making you suffer. Some people are suffering from back pain. Some people are suffering from headaches. Some people are suffering from other internal pains. Is that good or bad? Someone would say, well, it is bad because it's, making my life very difficult. But some would respond by saying, no, it's actually good. Because if it wasn't for that pain, I would have never gone after the cure of that pain. If it wasn't for the constant reminder of this illness which is inside of me, I would have never gone out for the cure of this illness which existed. Therefore, if there wasn't any pain, there wasn't any dard in me, I would not be able to go ahead and solve and look for the solution for this dard that exists, this pain that exists in me. Therefore, the existence of hell is what? Is rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Existence of even Iblis, for that matter, becomes what? Rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If it wasn't for the explanation regarding the hell and the fire and what goes on in there, you and I would not take heed and do things so that we stay away from going into that hellfire. If it wasn't for the warnings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave, that this Iblis is someone who will come and misguide you, you and I would not remain away from this Iblis so that he does not misguide you. Having this knowledge about these evils actually becomes the rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So everything else falls under this big umbrella, which is nothing but the rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat biji Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I'm not very good with the ash'ar. I, before coming here, tried to memorize the share. But as the speech went along, tried to give the rabt of that share to the masaib. Obviously, I'm struggling to remember that. It was regarding the share of Allama Iqbal. Maybe some of the people sitting over here may be able to help me out. That he talks about faqr. That ek faqr shabbiri. क्या है आगे का नहीं मालूम मुझे एक फ़क़्र शब्बीरी Allama Iqbal mentions in regards to the faqr of Shabbiri, ek faqr Shabbiri is faqr mehmiri. There's this poverty of Shabbiri, faqr of Shabbiri, and in this faqr there's miri, right? In that faqr you find miri, that means richness in it. Mirath-e Musalmani, it is the miras of insan and Musalman, and then brings it towards Shabbiri as well to connect the qafiyah. That yes, going back to that discussion of how if you're able to bring this faqr inside of your heart, that love of Sayyid al-Shuhada, that even if it is poverty and faqr in your eyes, it is actually filled with richness. And therefore, you and I would never trade anything for the gham of Shabbir that we have in our hearts. Because what did Imam Hussein stand up for? If he wanted, like others did, and they told him to, stay back and you would not be killed, and you will be provided for, you could have all the fame and all the riches in the world. In fact, some people went to the extent to give mashwara to Imam Hussein by saying what? Don't cause fitna in the society. Abdullah ibn Umar gave this advice to Imam Hussein, which obviously Imam did not pay any attention to because it was beyond his understanding to what Imam Hussein was standing for. When there weren't enough in the battle of Khandaq or Khaybar that Rasulullah could depend upon, that you don't expect enough companions along with Imam Hussein when Islam is at stake. So therefore you only find a handful who are accompanying Imam Hussein in this safar of his. But the difficulty that Imam has is that he brings his family with him. He can't leave them. Now he has to bring him. But when he brings him, you and I also know that when we're traveling ourselves, how easy it is for us. But when you're traveling with your family, it adds to a responsibility that you have to look after them, take care of them, especially if their children are involved, lest anyone is hungry or thirsty. You may be able to survive difficulties yourself, but you can't put your family through those difficulties. But Imam Hussein has to bear all of this because he can't leave them behind either. And there are certain women that are traveling with Imam Hussein as well, all of whom are unique in their own personalities. But the request that I had for the Masaib tonight, There's a lady that is traveling with Imam Hussein by the name of Rubab. Rubab is unique from other women that are in the camp of Imam Hussein. He said, how are you saying this? There's Zainab in there. There's Kulthum. There's Farwa. And some riwayat mention there's Layla as well. How do you put Rubab separate than all of the other women? Well, some of them gave, and I'm using this word, only their children's sacrifice. Rubab gave the sacrifice of everything. She gave the sacrifice of her husband in Karbala. She gave the sacrifice of her daughter in Sham. And she gave the sacrifice of her son in Karbala as well. But when Imam Hussein, on the night of Ashur, he tested his ashab, he put out the lamp and he asked them to leave because he said, they're only after my blood, nothing to do with you. You may get up and leave. He saw that every one of them were intact in their own places. Nobody had gotten up and left. Even Zuhair ibn Qayem and Hilal ibn Nafi' and other companions said, Imam, if we were given lives 70 times, we would not have spared you, we would not have stranded you by yourself. When Imam was done testing his ashab, then Imam also wanted to test the ladies as well. He tested the ashab by gathering them in one tent, but he didn't gather all the ladies together. Imam just went around paying a visit to all of the tents of the ladies. When he went past the tent of Janab Zainab, he heard how she was preparing On and Muhammad for tomorrow's battle. Now listen, my sons, do not let me down in front of my brother. When he went past the tent of Farwa, he heard how she was giving nasayah to Hazrat Qasim, that how you should be ready for tomorrow's battle. And while some riwayat, if Layla was there, he went by her tent and he heard that how she was telling Ali Akbar how he should be the first one to go ahead and take lead in all of this. But when he went by the tent of Rubab, Imam heard a weeping and a crying sound coming out of the tent. What did Imam hear? He heard Rubab say these words, that how unlucky am I that everyone is preparing for a qurbani. Well, I have two children, neither one of them are capable of giving qurbani. I have a daughter who's so young, and even if she was not young, there's no jihad for girls. And I have a son who's so young that even if I wanted him to crawl to the maqtal, he will not be able to crawl to maqtal. Imam walks in, he understands and realizes the cry of Rubab, and then Imam says to her something. Oh Rubab, do not underestimate the sacrifice your children will give. Your daughter will play a major role, that Yazid will become a foul word for people to use. That's the inqilab that she will bring in Sham. And as far as जहाँ तक के तुम्हारे बेटे का सवाल है, अली असगर की कुर्बानी को भी कम न समझना। अरे दुनिया अब्बास की जंग को भूल जाएगी, अली अकबर के महास को भूल जाएगी, कासिम के जंग के तरीक़े को भूल जाएगी, जब अली असगर के जंग के तरीक़े को देखेगी। अजरुकुम अल्लाह, खुदा किसी गम में ना रुलाए सिवाय गम आले मोहम्मद के, कि किस तरीके से इमाम ने रुबाब की उस मुश्किल को दूर कर दिया, किस तरीके से इमाम ने वो ख़वातीन, उन पे सलाम हो, ख़वातीन आती हैं, अपने बच्चों को लाती हैं, अपने शिशमाहों को साथ लाती हैं, उनके साथ साथ पानी और दूध का इंतज़ाम रखती हैं कि कहीं बच्चा दौरान मजलिस अगर भूखा हो या प्यासा हो, अगर रोने लगे तो उसको दे सकें। लेकिन ये कैसी माएँ हैं कि इनके पास 3 दिन से कुछ देने को न था। इमाम हुसैन ने ये बात कह के रबाब को तशफ़ी दी, पर روز مقتل آتا ہے، روز عاشور آتا ہے، امام نے سب کی قربانی دے دی تھی، ایک دفعہ امام نے استغاثہ بلند کیا، حل من ناصرین ینصرنا حل من مغیث یغیثنا۔ جیسے امام نے استغاثہ بلند کیا، کہا دیکھا کہ کوہرام برپا ہو گیا، خیمہ گاہ میں امام آتے ہیں، کہا او زینب یہ کیسا کوہرام ہے؟ کہا مولا اے حسین، جیسے ہی آپ نے استغاثہ بلند کیا علی اصغر نے اپنے آپ کو گہوارے سے گرا دیا۔ امام سمجھ گئے کہ ننا علی اصغر شش ماہ قربانی کے لیے بے تاب ہے، لیکن ماں سے یہ نہیں کہہ سکتے کہ لاؤ اپنے لال کو دو، اس کو میں قربان گاہ لے جاؤں۔ کہا ایک دفعہ علی اصغر کو میرے ہاتھ میں دو، اس کو پانی پلا لاؤں۔ رباب لاتی ہیں مگر کہتی ہیں کہ ایک دفعہ مجھ کو واپس کر دیجئے۔ امام کے ہاتھوں سے لیا، واپس خیمے میں چلی گئیں۔ امام نے کہا اے رباب کیا تم گھبرا گئیں کہ علی اصغر بھی شہید ہو جائیں گے؟ کہا نہیں۔ واپس لے کے آتی ہیں، نیا کرتا پہنایا، آنکھوں میں سرما لگایا۔ میں بھی چاہتی ہوں کہ میرا لال بھی اس طریقے سے جائے جس طریقے سے غازی جاتے ہیں شہید ہونے کے لیے۔ میں نے کسی کتاب میں نہیں پڑھا مگر کسی سے سنا ہے، علماء سے سنا ہے، وہ پڑھتے ہیں کہ ایک دفعہ رباب نے علی اصغر سے کہا جب تم شہادت کے بعد سے اپنی دادی سے ملو گے تو وہ کہیں گی کہ تمہارے منہ پہ پانی تک نہ ڈالا، تمہاری ماں نے ایسے آئے تو کہہ دینا دادی اماں پانی پینے کو نہ تھا، منہ دھونے کے لیے کہاں سے لاتا۔ الا لعنت اللہ القوم الظالمین وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون۔ بار اللہ ہماری اس بات قبول فرما، ہم گناہ گار ہیں، گناہوں سے درگزر فرما، اہل بیت علیہ السلام کے نقش قدم چلنے کی توفیق عطا فرما، ہمیں ان کی تعلیمات پر عمل کرنے کی توفیق عطا فرما، امام کے ظہور میں تعجیل فرما، ہمیں ان کے اعوان انصار میں شمار کر۔ ربنا تقبل منا انک انت السمیع العلیم۔ ماتم حسین۔